Srila Prabhupada had written to India's new Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, requesting her to sanction the release of money from India. A reply dated February 25th, New Delhi, came from the Prime Minister's official secretary, Mr. L. K. Gah, as follows. Dear Swamiji, the Prime Minister has seen your letter of February 8, 1966. She appreciates the spirit which prompted you to carry the spiritual message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to other countries. Owing to the critical foreign exchange situation which the country is facing, it is greatly regretted that it will not be possible to assist you from here in your plan to set up a Radha Krishna temple. But Prabhupada had other hopes. After writing to the Prime Minister, he had written again to Tirth Maharaj, asking him to request Dr. Radhakrishnan to persuade the government to sanction the release of funds. He waited for 1 month, no answer. Haribol. Okay. Apparently, his godbrothers felt little obligation toward preaching in America. He had written that he needed encouragement from them to continue in America because it was so expensive. He had explained that he was spending the equivalent of 1,000 rupees a month. As such, I'm counting every day to receive your favorable replies. But there was no reply. March 18, he wrote again to Sir Padmapat Sanghenia. I'm going to increase the temperature in the home little. He wrote again to Sir Padmapat Sanghania, requesting him to send a man from India to supervise work on the temple in New York, as Mr. Sanghania had previously suggested. There is no record of any reply to this request. Prabhupada wrote again to Srimati Morarji, requesting her to please send him a mridanga to accompany his chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He also requested her that in the future, when he would send many men from India, she obliged by giving them free passage on Scindia steamship lines. No reply. As his financial situation became more urgent and his hopes more strained, his support from India withdrew in silence. His unanswered correspondence was itself a kind of message, loud and clear, we cannot help you. Although no one encouraged him, Srila Prabhupada trusted in the order of his spiritual master and the will of Krishna. The word from the Prime Minister regarding government sanction had been a definite no. But he had received another extension of his visa. Now his last hope was Sir Padmapat Sanghania. Prabhupada knew that he was so influential a man in India that if he wanted, he could send the money. He was Prabhupada's final hope. April 2. Mr. Sanghania did not reply personally he had his secretary, Mr. S. Iyer, write to Prabhupada, thoroughly discouraging his last hope for purchasing a building in New York. He wrote as follows: I regret to write that Sir Padampat Ji is not interested in the scheme of building a Radha Krishna temple in New York at present. In regard to the inquiry contained in the last paragraph of your letter, Sir Padampat Ji duly received your books of Srimad Bhagavatam from your Delhi office. Yours faithfully. Seeing him from a distance, a tiny figure walking Manhattan Street, an avenue among many other tiny figures, a foreigner whose visa had almost run out. We come upon only the external appearance of Srila Prabhupada. These days of struggle were real enough and very difficult, but his transcendental consciousness was always predominant. He was not living in Manhattan consciousness, but was absorbed in the dependence upon Krishna. Just as when on the Jaladuta he had suffered his heart attack, his reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita had supplied him the nectarian of life. He had already succeeded. Certainly he wanted to provide Radha and Krishna a temple in New York, but his success was that he was remembering Krishna. Even in New York City in the winter of 1965-66, whether the world recognized him or not a day went by when he did not work on Krishna's book, Srimad Bhagavatam. And not a day went by when he did not offer food to Krishna and speak on Krishna's philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, quote, "For one who see me everywhere and see everything in me, I'm never lost to him and he is never lost to me," unquote. And Krishna assures his pure devotees that, quote, "My devotee will never be vanquished." There was never any doubt about this for Prabhupada. The only question was whether American would take notice of the pure devotees in their midst. At this point, it seems that no one was going to take him seriously. So we are embarking on chapter number 5, titled Free to Preach. Srila Prabhupada write from the lecture given by him. Here I am now sitting in New York, the world's greatest city, such a magnificent city, but my heart is always hankering after that Vrindavan. I shall be very happy to return to my Vrindavan, the sacred place. But then, quote, "Why are you here?" Now, because it is my duty, I have brought some message for you people. Because I have been ordered by my superior, my spiritual master. Quote, "Whatever you have learned, you should go to the Western countries and you must distribute this knowledge," unquote. So in spite of all my difficulties, all my inconveniences, I'm here because I'm obligated by duty. Haribol. Room 307 was never meant for use as a residence or ashram or lecture hall. It was only a small, narrow office without furniture or a telephone. Its door held a large pane of frosted glass, the kind common in all offices. Above the door was a glass Then transom. Prabhupada placed his blankets on the floor before his metal footlocker, which now became a makeshift desk where he wrote. He slept on the floor. There were no facilities here for cooking or even for bathing. So daily he had to walk to Dr. Mishra's apartment. When he had lived in room 501 at Dr. Mishra's yoga ashram, Dr. Mishra has financed his needs. But now Prabhupada was on his own, and whatever he could raise by selling his books, he would have to use for his daily maintenance and for the monthly rent of $72. He noted that for a little powdered chili, the West Ends Supreti charged 25 cents, 10 minutes what he would have paid in India. He had no guaranteed income, and his expense had increased, and his physical comfort had reduced. But at least he had his own place. Now he was free to preach as he liked, because Mishra was impersonalist, and he never allowed Prabhupada that much to speak on, because he was afraid that Prabhupada may take over all this audience. So he had come to America to speak about Krishna, and even from the beginning he had found the opportunity to do so, whether at an informal get-together in the Agarwal's living room or before a formal gathering at the Butler Lions Club. Dr. Norman Brown's Sanskrit class, Dr. Mishra's Yoga Society, or the Tagore Society. But he did not attach much importance to lecturing, where the people who gathered would hear him only once. This was the main reason he wanted his own building in New York, so that people could come regularly, chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam in his company, and hear him speak from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Moving out of the yoga studio into the small office downstairs gave Prabhupada what he was looking for. His own place, but not even euphemistically could that place be called a temple. His name was on the door. Anyone seeking him there could find him. But who would come there? By its opulence and beauty, a temple was supposed to attract people to Krishna. But room 307 was just the opposite. It was bare poverty. Even a person interested in spiritual topics would find it uncomfortable to sit on the rugless floor of a room shaped like a narrow railroad car. One of Dr. Mishra's students had donated a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and Prabhupada recorded some of his solitary bhajans, which he sang on his own accompaniment of hand cymbals. He also recorded a long philosophical essay, Introduction to Gita-upanishad. Even if no one attended, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had told him, quote, "You can go on chanting to the four walls," unquote. But since he was now free to speak his message in the new situation God had provided, he decided to lecture 3 evenings a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, to whoever would come. His first audience consisted mainly of the people who had heard about him or met him at Dr. Mishra's yoga studio. And despite the poverty of his room, the meeting became a source of new life for him. March 18th. He expressed his optimism in a letter to Srimati Morarji as follows. I was very much encouraged when you wrote to say, quote, I feel that you should stay there until you fully recover from your illness and return only after you have completed your mission, unquote. Prabhupada never forget. I think this line dictated by you are the words of Lord Krishna expressed through your goodness. You will be pleased to know that I have improved my health back to normal and my missionary work is nicely progressing. I hope my project to start a temple of Sri Sri Radha Krishna will also be realized by the grace of the Lord. Since I came to New York from Butler, Pennsylvania, I have rented the above room at $70 per month and am delivering lectures on the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, accompanied by Sankirtan, and the American ladies and gentlemen comes to hear me. You'll be surprised to know that they do not understand the language of Sankirtan, yet they hear with attention. The movement which I have started here is completely new to them because the Americans are generally acquainted with the Indian yoga gymnastics as performed by some Indian yogis here. They have never heard of the bhakti cult of the science of Krishna before, and still they are hearing me. This is a great success for me. Very good. Outside the closed window of room 307, the late winter night has fallen. Prabhupada's words are punctured with the muted sound of car horns and occasional siren from the street, and sometimes by the startling chorus of a lonely foghorn on the Hudson. Although bare, the room is warm. Prabhupada is speaking on the second chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Now Arjuna is perplexed. He is perplexed about whether to fight or not to fight. After seeing in front of him his relatives with whom he was to fight, he was perplexed. And there was some argument with Krishna. Now here is the point. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada's voice is earnest, pursuing. Sometimes his speech becomes high-pitched and breaks with urgency. His cultured British dictation bears a heavy Bengali accent. Suddenly, he pauses in his lecture and addresses someone in the room. Prabhupada, what is that? Man, what? Prabhupada, what is that, this book? Man, well, this is a translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is obviously displeased that while he is speaking, someone is looking through a book. This is hardly like the respect offered to a learned speaker described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Haribol. So that sets a precedence that we should do not do anything in the Bhagavatam class. Haribol. One side is my new frame is so hard. Prabhupada is obviously displeased that while he is speaking, someone is looking through a book. This is hardly like the respect offered to learned speakers described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada, wow, no, you can hear me. Man, I'm hearing. Prabhupada, yes, don't turn your attention, just hear me. He is taking the role of a teacher, correcting his student. Of course, there is no compelling reason why any of his casual guests should feel obliged to obey him. He simply begs for their attention and yet demands it. Just hear me. As he attempts to convince them of Krishna consciousness. You have heard that one must accept the spiritual master after careful examination, just as one selects a bride or a bridegroom after careful examination. In India, they are very careful because the marriage of the boys and girls take place under the guidance of the parent. So the parents very carefully see to it. Similarly, one has to accept the spiritual master. It is necessary. According to the Vedic injunctions, everyone should have a spiritual master. Perhaps you have seen a sacred thread. We have got sacred thread. Mr. Cohen, you have seen sacred thread? Prabhupada pauses. His audience has not noted the thin white coat he wears beneath his shirt across the upper part of his body. For thousands of years, Brahmanas in India have worn such threads placed diagonally across the torso, looped over the left shoulder and down to the right waist. A Brahman holds his thread in his right hand while chanting the sacred Gayatri mantra 3 times a day. But this is all strange indeed to Americans. Prabhupada himself is exotic to them. His grey chadar wrapped around his shoulder. He sits cross-legged and erect on a thin pillow. They sit facing him on the other side of his trunk, which now show as a desk and lantern. They are close together in the narrowness of the room. He is frail and small and foreign to them. Yet, somehow, he is completely assured in a way that has nothing to do with being a foreigner in New York. Visitors sense his strong presence. 2 white lines of clay run nearly vertical on his forehead. His pale peach cloths are gathered in loose fold around his body. He pauses only a few seconds to inquire whether they have seen a sacred thread. That sacred thread is a sign that the person has a spiritual master. Here, of course, there is no such distinction, but according to the Hindu system, a married girl also some sign so that people can understand that this girl is married. She wears a red mark so that others may know that she is married. And according to the division in the hair, what is this line called? Man part. Prabhupada, Man part. Prabhupada, what is the spelling? Man part. Haribo. Prabhupada, part. This parting also has some meaning. They know English and he knows the Gita. but he knows a good deal of English, whereas they know practically nothing of the Gita, which he has to spoon feed to them. But occasionally he asks their help in English vocabulary. When the part is in the middle, then the girl has her husband, and she is coming from a respectable family. And if the part is here, then she is a prostitute. With a slight gesture, he raises his hand toward, but never really reaching his head. Yet, somehow, the half gesture clearly indicate a part on the side of the head. And then again, when a girl is well dressed, it should be understood that she has her husband at home. And when she is not well dressed, it is to be understood that her husband is away from home. You see? And a widow's dress. There are so many symptoms. So similarly, the sacred thread is a sign that the person has accepted a spiritual master, just as the red mark symbolizes that a girl has a husband. Although his audience may be momentarily enamored by what appear to be a descriptions of Indian social customs, a careful listener can grasp the greater context of Prabhupada's speech. Everyone must accept a spiritual master. That's the bottom line. It's a heavy topic for a casual audience. What is the need of taking a spiritual master? Isn't this just for India? But he says, quote, everyone should have a spiritual master, unquote. What is a spiritual master anyway? Maybe he means that accepting a spiritual master is just another cultural item from Hinduism, like the thread, or the part in a woman's hair, or the widow's dress. The audience can easily regard his discussion as a kind of cultural expositions, just as one comfortably watches a film about the living habits of people in foreign land, although one has no intention of adopting this habit as one's own. The Swami is wearing one of those threads on his body, but that's for Hindus. And it doesn't mean that Americans should wear them. But these Hindu beliefs are interesting. Actually, Prabhupada has no motive but to present the absolute truth as he has heard in the disciplic succession. But if anyone in that railroad car-shaped room were to ask himself, quote, should I surrender to a spiritual master? Quote, unquote, he would be confronted by the existential presence of a genuine guru, one who is free to regard his talk as one likes. In every step of one's life, the spiritual master guides. Now, to give such guidance, a spiritual master should also be a very perfect man. Otherwise, how can he guide? Now, here Arjuna knows that Sri Krishna is the perfect person. So therefore he is accepting him. Sishyaste aham sadhi mam tvam prapannam. Sanskrit. No one knows a word of it. But there is never any question for Srila Prabhupada. Even if they don't understand it, the transcendental sound of Shastra will purify them. It is his authority, and he cannot omit it. And even at first impression, it presents an air of scholarly authority, the original, though foreign, words of the sages. Quote, I am just surrendering unto you, and you accept me as your disciple. unquote, Arjuna says. Friendly talks cannot make a solution to perplexity. Friendly talks may be going on for years together, but no solution. So here, Arjuna accepts Krishna as the spiritual master. This means that whatever Krishna will dictate, he has to accept. One cannot deny the order of the spiritual master. Therefore, one has to select a spiritual master by whose order one will not commit a mistakes. Suppose you accept the wrong person as spiritual master and he guides you wrongly, then your whole life is spoiled. So one has to accept a spiritual master whose guidance will make one's life perfect. That is the relationship between spiritual master and disciple. It is not a formality, it is a great responsibility, both for the disciple and for the spiritual master. And yes, students, but if the disciple is in ignorance before, Prabhupada, yes, Prabhupada acknowledged a serious question. It is for answering question like this from disciples in ignorance that he has left retirement in India and came to America. So student, how does he know which master to choose? Because he doesn't have the knowledge to make a wise decision. Very well. So many people who has not yet taken initiation, this is something you should hear attentively. Prabhupada, yes. So the first thing is that one should be searching after a spiritual master, just as you search after some school. You must at least have some preliminary knowledge of what a school is. You can't search for a school and go to a cloth shop. If you are so ignorant that you do not know what is a school and what is a cloth shop, then it's very difficult for you. You must know at least what a school is. So that knowledge is like this. Tad vijnanartham shagurum eva bhigacchati samit pani stotriyam brahmanistam. According to this verse, the spiritual master is required for a person who is inquisitive about transcendental knowledge. And there is another verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigna Surshaya Uttamam. One should search after a spiritual master if one is inquisitive about transcendental subject matters. Unless one is at least conversant with preliminary knowledge of transcendental matters, how can he inquire from the spiritual master? So his questionnaire seems satisfied. The lecture is not a prepared speech on a specific subject, though grave and thoughts in scholarship, it ranges over several philosophical points. Yet he never pauses, groping for words. He knows exactly what he wants to say, and it is only a question of how much his audience can take. But sometimes his mood is light, and he commiserates with his fellow New Yorkers, chuckling about the different difficulties they share. Quote, suppose there is a heavy snowfall. The whole New York City is flooded with snow, and you are all put into inconvenience. That is a sort of suffering, but you have no control over it, unquote. Sometimes he praises Dr. Mishra's students for having learned so nicely from their teacher. Quote, now, what Dr. Mishra is teaching is very nice. He is teaching that first of all you must know, quote, who am I? That is very good. But that who am I can be known from Bhagavad Gita also. Quote, I'm not this body, unquote. And sometimes a guest suddenly speak out with an irrelevant question, and the Swami patiently tries to consider it. Yet behind his tolerance, Prabhupada's mood is always one of urgency. Sometimes he talks quickly, and one senses his desire to establish Krishna consciousness in the West as soon as possible. He has no followers, only a few books, no temples, and he openly states that he is racing against time. Quote, I'm an old man. I could leave at any time, unquote. So behind the formal delivery of Krishna conscious philosophy is in an anxiety, an almost desperate desire to convince at least one soul to take up Krishna consciousness immediately. Haribol. And Prabhupada, when he writes Bhagavad Gita in the introduction, at the end he will write, if one will become a pure devotee, all my effort will be successful. So now the constrained situation of Butler and the Anand Ashram and Dr. Mishra are behind him. He is free to speak about the absolute truth in full. Throughout his life, he has prepared for this. Yet, he is still discovering the best ways to present Krishna, exploring his Western audience, testing their reactions. We should always remember that he is God. He is all-powerful. In strength, no one could conquer him. In beauty, as far as beauty is concerned, when he was on the battlefield, have any of you seen a picture of Krishna? Have you seen? Have any of you ever seen Krishna? Oh, no. Prabhupada's voice fades as he pauses, looking out at his audience. No one has ever seen Krishna. None of them have the slightest previous knowledge of Lord Krishna. In India, hundreds of millions worship Lord Krishna daily as the eternal form of all beauty and truth, and view his graceful form in sculptures, painting, and dance. His philosophical teachings in Bhagavad Gita are all famous, and Prabhupada is his intimate emissary. Yet the ladies and gentlemen in room 307 look back at their Swami blankly. Prabhupada is discussing the real meaning of going to a sacred place in India. One should go to a sacred place in order to find some intelligent scholar in spiritual knowledge living there and make association with him, just like I. My residence is at Vrindavan. So at Vrindavan, there are many big scholars and saintly persons living. So one should go to such holy places, not simply to take bath in the water. One must be intelligent enough to find some spiritually advanced man living there and take instructions from him and be benefited by that. If a man has attachment for going to a place of pilgrimage to take a bath, but has no attractions for hearing from learned people there, he is considered to be an ass. Prabhupada is so strong. And then he laughs. Sa eva go kharaha. Go means cow and khara means ass. So the whole civilization is moving like a civilizations of cows and asses. Everyone is identified with the body. Yes, you want to speak? Woman. In the places known as sacred places. Prabhupada. Sacred, yes. Woman. Is it sacred places? Prabhupada. Yes. Woman. Isn't it also a fact that there is more magnetism because of the meeting of saint and more advanced people? Prabhupada, oh yes, certainly, certainly. Therefore, the place itself has got some magnetism. Woman, yes, and when? Prabhupada, just like at Vrindavan. That is practical. Here I am now sitting in New York, the world's greatest city, such a magnificent city, but my heart is always hankering after that Vrindavan. Very go. Woman, yes. And then she laughed. Prabhupada, yes, I'm not happy here. Woman, yes, I know. Prabhupada, I shall be very happy to return to my Vrindavan, that sacred place. But then, quote, why are you here? Unquote. Now, because it is my duty, I have brought some message for you people. Because I have been ordered by my superior, my spiritual master. Whatever you have learned, you should go to the Western countries and you must distribute this knowledge. Unquote. So, in spite of all my difficulties, all my inconveniences, I'm here because I'm obligated by duty. If I go and sit down in Vrindavan, that will be good for my personal conveniences. I shall be very comfortable there and I will have no anxiety, nothing of the sort. But I have taken all the risk in this old age because I'm duty bound. I'm duty bound. So I have to execute my duty despite all my inconveniences. An outsider opens the door and hesitantly glances inside. Prabhupada, stopping his lecture, yes, yes, come in, you can come here. Robert Nelson was like a slow, simple country boy with a homespun manner. Even though he had grown up in New York City, he was 20-year-old and he wasn't part of the growing hippie movement. He didn't take marijuana or other drugs and didn't socialize much. He was a loner. He had gotten some technical education at Staten Island Community College and had tried his hand at the record manufacturing business, but without much success. He was interested in God and would attend various spiritual meetings around the city. So one night, he wandered into the Yoga Society to hear Dr. Mishra's lecture. And there he saw Prabhupada for the first time. So Robert is explaining, oh, it's 7:06. Nobody told me. I didn't look at the clock. I'm extremely sorry. We should stop here. We should be punctual. So next time, please remind me. Thank you very much. If anybody has any question, comment, corrections, or chastisement, feel free to do so. If not, then we will end our session. And if Krishna so desire, we will see you tomorrow morning at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, or you can join at your convenient time. Anybody has anything to add or subtract? No? Haribol. Shyam Sundar Prabhu, did you find a job yet or no? Shyam Sundar Prabhu? Oh, he may be away from the phone. Prabhuji is struggling. That teaches the world we are living in. How horrible it is.